Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast. Now, in the fire service, we're so used to sliding up and down poles, but today we have come to have a look at something which is originally thought of as perhaps a burlesque dance or something like that, but it's now taken the UK by storm as a full body workout that empowers women and men. They're getting fitter, healthier and stronger and helping them with their body confidence. We're here today with Donna Treadgold from First Class Pole Fitness in Melton Mowbray. And I've got a name all wrong, but I sound of it already. Donna, how do I say your last name?
Treadgold.
Treadgold.
There's no H.
Damn, there's no H. How are we doing, Donna?
I'm good, thank you.
Welcome to the Firefighters Podcast. So we find ourselves here in an empty studio.
Currently, yes.
Why are we in an empty studio?
Well, government guidelines, obviously, at the moment still restrict on opening studios and gyms and dance spaces. So currently, obviously, we're tied to that, really.
We are indeed, and it's great to see people such as yourself, and I spoke to a few other business owners that are acting responsibly. Do you know what I mean? Because I know we've all seen a few things out there.
Yeah, there's a few.
It's so difficult because you've got to hold yourself accountable. There's nobody out there, obviously it's the government that's going to say don't do it, but everybody's got to try and act with the best interests of everybody else, because you and I are both fit, healthy people, but it's not about us.
Yeah, it's not always the case, is it?
Exactly. You know, it's for those members of the community that we've really got to look after. So when we do get started again, you run a really successful pole fitness centre here. How did you first get started with something like this?
So back in around 98, after my first child, I wanted to do something different for fitness. I'd come out of the army after having my daughter and thought, what is there? I don't want to do gym work. I'd done, obviously, lots of gym work with being in the forces. Nothing, obviously, against gym work.
What did you do in the forces? Were you a PTI of some form? Or?
No, I was in the Royal Signals.
The Royal Signals?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So
how long did you do that for?
3 years, so as a telecommunications operator.
Okay. So that's a hell of a transition when you come out of that. Did you come out, you came out when you had your first child?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And you decided to then move into an area of fitness, but it wasn't going to be gyms.
So I didn't, obviously I went for myself at first, and I did, we went, me and my friend had found a strip club on a Sunday night that was shut.
Nice.
And asked some of the girls if they'd teach us. And that's basically how I got into it, really.
But even to do something like that, I mean, you're clearly a confident person. I imagine some of that would have played a huge role in the armed services. But just to approach a strip club and say, girls, or guys, I'm not interested necessarily in that, but it looks like a hell of a lot of fun. Yeah. It looks like an awesome way of fitness. Was it even a thing then? Were people doing it as fitness?
I think there was one other lady called Sally Ann Giles from Birmingham that has the exotic background. Okay. So she'd actually worked in it before she started as a fitness thing. But yeah, so it wasn't out there. No,
but it's become.
It was a bit in America,
huge.
But not in the UK at all.
No, because I was looking back into it, and it has been going. So yeah, I mean, it's been going a few hundred years or something like that. But it came from nothing like what we see it like today. It's really branched out into. It's so much more socially acceptable. We'll get onto that, but. Where did pole dancing itself start?
So there's various routes, and various people will say it's come from various backgrounds. Yeah, there's always a bit of that, So there is the Indian side, which is Malakab, which is the wooden pole, and it's a combination of gymnastics and...
Is that where they jump from one to another?
Yeah, they're crazy.
That looks pretty crazy.
I mean,
incredible.
we do some crazy stuff on a pole, but they are crazy. So it's yoga and gymnastics combined.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's Chinese...
That was men and women, wasn't it?
So it's men mainly in India, but then there's Chinese pole, which is which you do get more recently women involved with, but again it's quite a male background, and obviously the female side of things and the sensual side of things, the exotic, obviously come from a background originally of prostitution, which then went into the whole burlesque, and it being a bit more classy.
Because I read that they started. Whilst the gymnastic element and the fitness element came from there, like you say, the women, if you will, and the burlesque side getting into it, something about they used to go into tents and just dance around, because they're those massive tents, like a circus tent, and they'd have a big pole in the middle just to hold the tent up.
Because it wasn't necessarily the gymnastic side, it was more the sensual side in the beginning. So the pole didn't necessarily have to be so super solid that it was going to be holding somebody's body weight, you know.
Because when you said about a wooden pole wasn't originating there, that sounds a lot friendlier to me. And what I mean by that is I've seen what you girls do, and obviously my wife takes part in your classes and stuff like that. A lot of these are steel poles. We're not playing games here. These things are rock solid. And I must imagine.
But if you actually when you go back and go and have a look at the Indian form, when they jump on it, I wouldn't want those splinters. I really wouldn't want those splinters. You know. Yeah.
So I always think about obviously from the fire service aspect, sliding down poles. We rarely ever climb up them. You do have the odd challenge on a fire station where they're like, hey dude, try and climb the pole. Like nobody on the watch can do it. The core strength, honestly, the technique, masses of technique, but the core strength that's involved in it, which I suppose is common when we think of the gymnastics origin of it. But then obviously the women started doing it, and it was more burlesque. When did it start to marry the two? When did people start climbing it?
I think I think about the 80s.
Okay.
That it started to be developed into more tricks.
Yeah.
But very basic tricks. And then I'd say late 90s, it started people to do the inverts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then in the 2000s, that's when it became like a craze.
A thing, yeah. And it became acceptable, and everybody started doing it.
And a bit more extreme.
But when you were doing it, you're a pioneer, entrepreneur of the sport when we think of the UK side of it, because you'd approach this nightclub, this strip club, whatever, and you said to the girls, can we come in after? So did one of them sort of teach you, or did you?
Yeah, so they taught us the basics, and after 6 weeks...
What's the basics for somebody that I...
Like spins and a basic climb and a sit-on and just little poses and how to dance around it. So that was basically it. And then after like 6 weeks, they couldn't show me anymore. So I was like, right, can I do this? Can I just try this? Can I, and I just tried a load of stuff.
Was it a lot of YouTubing and messing about and experimenting?
No, because it wasn't
really
it was
then,
about... No, so there was nobody submitting videos. It wasn't until I actually got my first studio that actually there was a video that came out from America, and I was like, oh my God, I've got to have it, and I watched this video, and I was like blown away that the stuff that it was doing, and it was totally different because it has been around in the trick side bigger in America than it was obviously here.
Because they have genuine national competitions. There's nothing.
Well, they do in the UK too.
Yeah, and there's nothing remotely sensual, sexual, anything about it. These are athletes, and I mean crazy athletes to the same level that a gymnast is. When you see a gymnast hanging on rings and stuff, like some of the stuff that people do on these poles. Yeah. It is incredible. So it was you and one other friend who first started doing it, and then how did that? Because most people, they'll pick up, like somebody says, "Oh, I quite fancy learning lacrosse." Nobody does lacrosse, and they'll get one stick and they're going to throw it around in the park, maybe one or two mates. But for somebody like you with that massive drive, when did it click where you didn't just think, "This is my hobby. I'm going to go and do the whole thing. I'm going to teach other people to do it."
So after about 3-4 months, I was like, "I really love doing this." Yeah. So. I got my ex-husband to cut off the washing line in the garden, stick me a galvanised steel pole in it.
Beauty.
Because
that's what you do.
There wasn't any home poles at that point.
Yeah. Was it like a big scaffold pole? Or
Oh,
just nice.
Banged it in the ground, and I just kept teaching myself at home.
That's fantastic.
And after a year, my friends who I'd gone with, she knew a guy who owned a pub. We said, can we have your upstairs room? And it took sort of 6 months to get more than 4 people through the door.
Really?
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
So you were running on passion, hard passion.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think the barrier was for it? Because even now when I say, like, obviously, my wife does it, and I say to some people, Claire's at pole tonight, and they go, hey, pole fitness. I'm like, yeah, but no. And I mean, obviously, my wife is beautiful and everything like that, and I love that she engages in it. But I've learned so much that it's not about that at all. Because I thought it was just a thing that she was going to do. I didn't think there was an enormous amount of fitness involved in it. Same as we have horses and she rides. Yeah. And I think, oh yeah, you're going to ride a horse. Similar aspect. The amount of fitness and the level of core strength involved in it. And she'd come back and she'd be telling me all about this. And obviously you guys do some filming and stuff, and to empower each other and support each other. It's become enormous now. But did you ever struggle getting people through the door with that preconception that, oh no thank you, Donna, not pole dancing, because that's a bit.
When we first started, like I say, like for the 6 months at least, like it was just 4 people, and we thought, oh my God, I don't think this is going to ever take off. But I just couldn't give up because I knew that eventually it would get to that stage.
People will bite that bug that you'd got.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think you either are that person that will love it or will hate it.
Yeah.
There's no in between.
Yeah,
there really is no. Yeah, there is no in between. So I think when people first come through the door, they've got this preconception that it's going to be super easy, and it really is not.
No, yeah. I'm probably one of them idiots.
So usually the first 4 sessions feel like they've been run over by a bus.
Yeah.
Because it's full body weight.
Oh, yeah.
The whole session of lifting yourself for an entire hour, hour and a half, is... Even
just when you think of it as like for fitness people listening, like a high intensity interval training, when you're just holding yourself, you've got like, if you've just started, like 10 seconds to have a little go, and then you've got to rest. Yeah. And then you back up, and then you rest. And it's that isometric hold. You're in that position. Everything's engaged, and no, let go, and you're just down again. Yeah. But if you're doing that for an hour, wow. Yeah, and I think once they've, if they're either the kind of person that can deal with that, I've been hit by a bus. Yeah. Or they're not. No. And they're the ones who... Because somebody that just wants to jog around the block or something, which is great. Running's a fantastic form of fitness. It ain't nothing like that. It is full body. Yeah. And Claire's really had to start doing like a lot more stretching and stuff that she never did before. Yeah. Even with like horse riding, to be fair, we should all stretch when we do any sort of sport. But the rotator cuffs and things like this, things she didn't know she had, muscles you didn't know existed, and being able to do that. So when you first started with just these 4 people, was it all women? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
At the time, we only offered it to women at the time, so it was only probably the last 10 years, I would say, it's now been offered to men. Okay. Purely because being females dominated my industry, the worry of somebody just coming to absolutely to have a good night looking at girls. Yeah.
There's a big, especially like we've said about that preconception. If I was like, oh, you guys can come, you may or may not get those. You're like, hey, I'm going to go and just sit in the corner and watch. Well, hang on a minute, that's not what it's about. This is fitness.
Yeah, we also did quite a few years ago. We did a male only class as well.
Did you know?
And the only other issue we had was there was quite a lot of bravado.
All right, yeah.
So testosterone, it was a bit too competitive.
Okay.
And I think when you're working at height, being too competitive can cause accidents.
I went down to London and did a circus day once, and similar aspect. You go on the rings, you do some gymnastics, you climb the ropes, and then you also do a few balance movements. And like I say, as soon as guys get that little bit of a competitive itch, it's no games. When you're 6, 7, 8 feet in the air or further, you haven't got to fall far to break something. Right. And men, bless us, we're not the most delicate of beings. We're not cats. We don't land on our feet. and I imagine have you seen any really bad injuries? Obviously not through poor instructing, but at the end of the day, people are at height and they may lose their grip or...
Not necessarily... We've had a couple of falls, but they've not resulted in major injuries or anything like that.
Is it a little bit like kids' gymnastics in the sense that as people who attempt these first things... there's a lot of physical support around them.
So when you're learning the moves, until you've fully got them, somebody is holding.
Fantastic.
Yeah. There's no way I'd let anybody just go into something without knowing that they could do it, because I know that there is risks. In the industry as a whole, there's been some accidents. Yeah.
Appreciating your own limitations as well, because it's a completely foreign object for a lot of people.
Complacency.
Really?
Yeah. So you do get girls that girls and guys really. That's when they usually have their accidents. Yeah. Is when they've got complacent with something, think, oh, this is easy now, and they're not really registering or thinking about where they're necessarily going next. Yeah. And that's when it usually.
Absolutely, you sing into the choir there, because you see it. I see it in gyms all the time. Yeah. People that have some big, strong, they're used to lifting an enormous amount of weight. Nobody or very few people are going to injure themselves near their personal best. They injure it on something small. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? They get in there and go, I'm just going to warm up with, and then the back goes, and then this goes, and that, because they're not tuned in. They're not respecting the equipment. They're not, I'm about to put a lot of load on my body, and I'm going to shock it, especially with the stuff that you do. Coming straight in and have that preconception that I've done it for a few weeks, I'm ready, and then straight away having that quick injury.
So with every session we teach, obviously we warm up, but then after that we whatever level they are, we always go into spins to warm the body.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We never go straight into like lifting.
No. It's a real
lifting.
shock load, isn't it, I suppose, on the system.
So although you are still lifting, you are using you've got the use of your centrifugal force to aid that weight.
Perfect. Yeah. It's like a progressive loading on the body, isn't it?
Basically, yeah.
So we've spoke a little bit about how men perceive it, but I had somebody when my wife and I were at a dinner party a little while ago. Claire mentioned about the fitness that she does, and I was astonished to glance out the corner of my eye the way a woman felt about my wife doing it. Now, and you haven't necessarily got to be a feminist as such, but do you ever have women thinking, no, thank you, Donna, that's for your sort of ladies, and I'm not. What do you mean, what sort of lady? What are you on about?
And what I'd usually say to them is, don't knock it before you try it.
Yeah.
Basically, there has been many a comment on Instagram or Facebook photo where I am a hoe.
Is that Donna the hoe again?
It definitely is.
With her flooziness and her ill morals, flaunting herself and her gang of rabble ladies. Yeah,
again, like I say, for me, it empowers and it gives women confidence.
I was going to ask you about
the amount of people that I've seen come to the studio, not just women but men too, with low self-esteem issues. And I usually describe them as they come in as a closed rosebud, really tight closed rosebud, and then over the weeks you obviously see this rose bloom into something beautiful.
That's a fantastic
Do you know
analogy.
what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
As they grow with confidence, and it's like their clothing changes too. So like they'll come in with like knee-length shorts.
My wife was the same.
Yeah, and you see them sneaking up over the
and
weeks. It's amazing.
Yeah, they're not like, I want to expose myself. They're understanding that it's going to help them. It's going to help them on the pole, but they no longer have that self-consciousness about.
Yeah, they're not worried so much about their body in this environment.
Yeah, and that's a massive that's a testament to yourself.
Yeah, I try to make this as homely as I can. Obviously, at the moment, all the materials are in here. All the window covers have been stripped back, so it obviously looks a little bit more cold, but usually it's got a real warm homely feel. Some of the girls come in their pyjamas, they don't care what they turn up in. Some in the summer, if it's warm, they just come in their hot pants and they're
Bless them. But some people might have the idea that I need to be really, not like you've said, you got a lot of women, and I know you do, and men who come with low self-confidence. People might hear that and feel really surprised because they may think I need to be really confident even to start, because I've seen what you do. I've seen the photos. I've seen what you ask people. No, I don't. Nobody asks anybody to wear anything. That's not how it works.
No. So as I always say, if you can get your lower leg out, that will massively help you. If you're worried about anything else, then as long as the lower leg's out, that's going to give you that extra grip. So it's taking some of the pressure out your arms.
It's a little bit of a chicken and egg scenario. And what I mean by that is if you don't get a bit of skin out. But if you don't get a bit of skin out, you're going to find it hard to progress.
Absolutely.
And if you find it hard to progress, you're not going to get the confidence. And when you don't get the confidence, you're not going to feel better to get you to get your skin out.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's one of those. One of them's got to come first. Yeah. You've got to trust us, guys.
I think as obviously the instructors here try the best to bring that out. And encourage that. And obviously, if people are getting moves and spins and just do that beginner's level. The praise that you, as an instructor, obviously you're going to praise if you're doing something brilliantly, and they will feed off that as students. Yourself.
Absolutely. It becomes addictive then, doesn't it? Because then they're sort of peeping over to the next stage. Like, can I try that one? Because I've seen what's the one you do with the thing, and they start to learn the names.
Absolutely.
And then and especially like we said now, not back then, but now with everything that's on YouTube and all the self-study. Do you have many people coming in trying to get ahead of themselves and a sort of I've seen this. Can I do this, Donna? Can I do that? And you're like, oh yeah, that's a really difficult one.
And then I go, hell to the no. No, I'll just say, look.
Have you done the one I asked you to do last week? No. Yeah. Well, let's do that one first, okay?
I will always encourage, and obviously if I think something's within their grasp, I will push for that progression. Yeah. I think that's the military bit in me making,
fundamentals. Get the fundamentals.
So, but if I think it's way out of the league, I'll just tell them straight.
Yeah. I hear so much of that.
Brutal honesty is sometimes the best way forward.
So many areas of fitness. I have people speak about, I've seen whoever, Usain Bolt does this with his nutrition. He does this with his diet. I'm like, okay, that's step 76. Okay, is he doing it right? Absolutely. For his sport, for like when you see some of the competitive pole people, you think, at their level, absolutely, they will need that piece of equipment and they'll need that style, and they've adapted that from this. You're worried about step 76. You've not done steps 1 to 5 yet. I always speak to people just about stretching, hydration, nutrition, not coming in and going, what supplements do I need to buy? And and I'm like, don't. I've seen this piece of equipment. And I want no. That's step 43. Do you know what I mean? Don't get there. They major in minor things.
It's like people buying poles for home. I always say to them, just come to classes for at least a year.
Yeah.
Then buy a pole for home, because then I know that you're committed to it and you're not wasting your money.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is the point?
Yeah.
I know you want to progress, but you'll only do what you know to do, because you probably won't feel safe enough to do the bits without being spotted anyway.
And it's a lot more likely that they may rush into it. They may not. I mean, you've created a fantastic surrounding and setting here in terms of the floors and how you've secured the bars and stuff like that. How expensive is it for somebody to get into the home side of it?
So for a portable pole that I would class as the safest
this is
one
what
on
I'm
the
asking,
market. It's around £200 for the safest on the market.
Because you'll get some pirates who are trying to do some telescopic thing.
There's plastic poles and all sorts
on
the market that are about £35 that as soon as you go on them are going to come straight out.
Do they look about the same? Yeah, they look about the same. Wouldn't touch it. Don't lean on it much. And people ripping the ceilings. I mean, you must have seen some horrendous things.
Designed for prancing around. Which is absolutely fine if that's what you want it for.
That's your thing.
But if you want to do tricks on a pole, then you've got to invest in the kit that's going to make sure that you're safe. So
absolutely. So have you ever had those sort of embarrassing stories from people of, obviously we'll not name any names, but people have said, hey Donna, now I got the right one. Yeah, I got the one, the £200 one from wherever. I put it up the other day, and have you ever had the embarrassing story where they said, I asked my husband, asked my wife, my partner, whoever, to put it up for me, and then X. Do you get many of those stories? Or
I wouldn't say with that particular equipment, because it's designed with a huge dome on the top. Okay. So that if it's going to go, it recatches.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it will work up to a 40.
Because I see yours. They almost look like a shoulder joint in the top of them, don't they? They're fixed in like a ball and socket so that they don't slip.
So these are competition poles basically up this end.
Sorry, yes, you've got some that are anchored.
These are the original stripper poles.
Okay.
The bottom ones.
Yeah.
Which are when poles first came out, that was all that was on the market. Yeah. That's what I originally started on.
Okay.
So they're 52 millimeter in diameter.
Yeah. And they don't spin?
They don't spin,
okay,
because they didn't have spin on. The newer poles, the competition poles, are there's 45 mil in the studio, and then there's 40 mil in the studio, so different sizes. Claire actually likes the 40 mil because she's only got little tiny hands.
She is tiny little petite, bless her, isn't she?
She's a dot, bless her. But yeah, so they have a joint in the middle as well, so they have like an X joint, they're called.
So, idiot question, those ones rotate?
Them ones rotate, yeah. So there's a little Allen key at the bottom you undo, and it allows rotation, so you can do spinning pole on those as well. Okay.
Does people still try spinning moves on the traditional ones?
So you can
must be
walk
really
in.
Difficult.
No, you can walk into something on a static and make it spin.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't continue spinning. That's the only difference.
Okay. Do people use like chalk and or any sort of
grip aids? Yeah,
grip aids,
if they suffer with sweaty palms, obviously that's going to
it's going to come off fast.
It's going to hinder the development. So so a lot of people will use. There's various products on the market designed for pole. If you imagine. When you think of chalk, you would probably think of like rock climbers chalk.
Yeah, rock climbers, weightlifting, powerlifting, whatever. It's all chalk.
Yeah, it's a different chalk to what they've got in that. For some reason, when you look at the molecules of chalk in rock climbers, weightlifters, it's got like a spikiness to it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, whereas the poles chalk is smoother in
Some of them use like a liquid chalk as well, don't they?
Yeah, the liquids then turn into that. Into chalk as it dries, but it's a smoother because obviously they have friction going round on the pole. if it's so hard, then you end up losing skin and getting blisters.
My hands are covered in calluses. Mine are terrible.
You'd probably be better off with a liquid chalk.
Definitely, at least something.
Than a powder. The powder is quite harsh.
Yes, I think you can take a lot of chunks off with stuff like that, can't you?
Yeah.
Now, we've spoken a lot about the mental health side of it, but I really wanted to go deeper in that because it's becoming such an enormous factor that the fitness industry, not that we've been ignoring it necessarily, but for those that just want to focus on the fitness and perhaps hadn't upskilled themselves through a genuine practice or just through their own experiences, you have to become much more than a fitness trainer these days. And I know the connection you have with a lot of your students goes way deeper than just pole. Well,
I'm called their pole mummy for a reason.
Exactly.
You know, I've all sorts of problems come into the studio. You know, through eating disorders, and mental health issues, anxieties, depression, and over time in teaching them, you get to know each girl individually or male individually, and you find out the issues with them and you try and help them with the issues. And I think that's part and parcel of an instructor, is to take on board people's problems and try and help. You have as much as you can, you know.
That's part of it. But we said before you came on, when you've got so many students, do you ever find, because I've had the challenges before, and I always tell people you can't pour from an empty cup. And if you're constantly walking around trying to pour a little bit in everybody's cup, you have to take
a bit of yourself out to give it to others.
You have to be in a real position of strength.
Yeah, I think every now and then, it's usually a yearly thing with me. My brain explodes. So that's all I can say it is. It has a major explosion.
Yeah.
I have a major meltdown. I go and have a cry in the bath. And then I put the music on really loud. And I go and dance around like an absolute lunatic. And I just let myself be me for a bit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then I find that I'm all right then. But it sounds daft, but that's what works for me.
Yeah.
You know.
So you have your yearly unload, deplug, the dam splits, if you will. But with any sort of fitness and living a healthy lifestyle, we all tend to fall into, it's all about habits for me. It's all about falling into a routine, because we're all habitual creatures and we like to gravitate to routine and stuff like that. What's your daily routine? How do you keep all this together? How do you obviously have your yearly explosion, but you must have like a little pressure release gauge. What's your what's a normal day in Donna's world?
Pole dancing for me, that has been my biggest outlet, I think, for the last 20 years. So because I'm quite a creative person. So if I'm not doing something on the pole, I would be doing something. I like to do things like upcycling and stuff like that. That's kind of my thing, other than pole.
That's great.
And I might make clothing or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm so creative. Yeah. Pole for me is not necessarily just all about the tricks and the gymnastics and that sort of side, but the dance side as well. So if I need to outlay, that's where my outlay goes. Yeah. So in general, I'm just a housewife.
Not just a housewife.
You know, like I've got a 3-year-old boy. I keep house. You know, in the daytime, and at night time I come and teach.
Wonderful.
And then if I've got the opportunity to give Stanley to somebody in the daytime, I might offer a private lesson in the daytime. Beautiful. Or I come and do my own training. So usually on a Saturday I'll do private lessons. On a Sunday, if I've got time, I'll get some in. But also I've got a partner, Sam, that obviously I like to spend time with as well, and he works a 6 till 6. So
striking that balance, isn't it?
Yeah. So I like to try and get at least a day with him on the weekend if I can, or at least half a day. It sounds ridiculous, but when you're running your own business, you're self-employed, you've got to take it where,
it's so difficult.
The trade where it is.
You've got to operate around a lot of, and this is the fitness industry in general, isn't it? People want you when they're not working. Yeah. So that tends to be evenings, weekends, mornings, things like that.
Exactly.
The time that you want to spend with your family and with your children. Yeah. Now, we spoke there. You've got a young boy. Yeah, Stanley. So you've got obviously my wife's a mum. You have a lot of mums and people like that come to this.
I've got 2 older daughters as well. So I've got Stanley who's 3, but I've got Tori who's 22, and Colette that's 20 as well. So there's a big gap in between. So I have got some babysitters.
Fantastic. Just leverage them in. Big sister. I bet they have a great relationship with them as well.
They do, yeah. Both really good.
So how would you think this applies itself? Because this isn't about just people that are incredibly fit. You've obviously got mums that have had babies and that come back
all
in.
Walks of life.
Because that sort of walks hand in hand with this body confidence again. Because women after they've had a child, I know my wife sometimes become a lot more self-conscious because you've given your body away to something else for a year.
Yeah.
And then you've been giving it back, a little bit beaten up, a little bit, the thing didn't look after you very well. It was supposed to love you, and somebody missed that part of the book.
Yeah. So just speaking for myself. So before Stanley, and I was, after I had the girls, I bounced back straight away. I was really young.
Okay.
And then when I had Stanley, he was £10.3. So for me, at 38, he took a massive toll on my body. I had SPD for 4 months afterwards, to the point I couldn't walk.
Wow.
My stomach is not as toned as it used to be. I can obviously through fitness, obviously I've still got the muscle underneath,
Absolutely,
but I've got the looser skin.
Yeah.
And I think that's just something that I've got to, I'm still not 100% with confidence myself in that aspect.
I don't think anybody ever is.
I think I've come to accept the fact that it's there and it ain't going to change. So.
And that's what body confidence, self-love.
That's not going to stop me getting in a bikini on the beach if I want to be.
Absolutely, because I think the industry and social media is terrible for it. We get dictated to on what
perfect,
what A, fitness is, and what B, perfect is, and what C, beautiful is.
Yeah.
But I look at it. I mean, sports is an example, beauty is an example. It's an art form, and art is subjective.
Yeah.
Do you know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Absolutely.
Especially with your partner. So Sam or my partner or anything like that, you will say, that person is beautiful, that person is handsome, that person is whatever. It's the same as a picture. If somebody walks into the Mona Lisa and goes, wow, that is the best, and somebody goes, that looks rubbish.
Yeah.
Oh my God, are you joking? Someone's just vomited at the wall. It looks horrific.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it, and that's what I love most when I see people in relationships, especially when we get a little bit older in life, when we get a little bit more self-awareness.
Yeah.
It's not just skin deep, and it's about having that deeper connection with somebody.
Yeah.
What would your biggest lesson be to yourself 10 years ago? So knowing what you know now, A, about the fitness industry, and A, about your own body confidence and things like that, what would you tell the Donna of 10 years ago that perhaps has held you back? What lesson would you teach yourself?
Oh, I don't think there is. I don't think I could, because I've always been quite confident. I think that's because of coming from the forces. And when I left the forces, I went into the TA and I was a corporal there. And I think you've got, as a woman in the forces, you've got to show some kind of level because you're outnumbered 16-1. So
that's not a statistic, is it? Crikey.
So, it was when I was in.
Yeah.
So I think being in a male-dominated area, if you don't stand out, you're not going to get promotion.
Okay.
So I think from being the forces, that actually made my confidence massive.
Were you confident before you came into the forces? Because you said it made you confident.
No, I wasn't. I think they do break you down and make you what they want you to be.
We've had a few military ones, and they say exactly that. Yeah, they break you down to rebuild you.
I came from quite an unsettled past.
Okay.
As a child, I was abused physically. So I think no, it's fine. I can deal it, and I think that actually helps a lot of students.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, because I can relate to a lot.
There's a difference between empathy and sympathy.
Oh, absolutely.
I can imagine that.
No, and
can you really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of somebody that's actually been there and had their own experience.
I think growing up with that and then going into the forces, because that was my way of escaping what I was dealing with at home. Do you know what I mean? So I went in there and. Yeah, they treat you like absolute shite. They really do. Like the amount of times a berry ripped off my head and it wiped across a locker and what's that? Do you know what I mean? But
you become a product of your environment.
My clothing out the window along with my bed, and I'd have to go down and fetch it. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay. And
really,
again, and
really
again.
Calluses the mind, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I think once you've gone through that whole. This is probably the lowest I'm going to get, being talked about and like prodded and old school kind
gives you a different set point, doesn't it?
So, and then when you they're starting to build you up and make you into the character that they want you to be, or the person that they would like to see. Yeah. That's I think where my confidence came from.
So it really was sort of forged in the fire in that respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love what you said, and thank you for sharing it about your past, because For example, Claire and I have had miscarriages, and it's one of those things similar in the respect that if you don't open up about it, you're never aware of how common it may be.
Oh God!
Well, we use the word common.
I was actually shocked at how common miscarriage was.
Yeah.
When I went to the hospital and they told me it was 1 in 4 women, I was just like, whoa.
Yeah. But it's a taboo subject, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish that more women would open up, and the amount of ladies that have I've seen go through it, and struggle and not know what's happening to their body. I went through all of that. I went through all of that. And
am I a failure? I shouldn't be a mom. Did
I
kill it? Did I kill the baby?
Yeah. I went through the whole. Am I too old? Is my body saying that? Is at 38? Is well, it's 37 when I had the miscarriage, but is it my body saying that's it for Mother Nature saying you ain't got no more in you, love? Yeah. You know what I mean? So,
is that? Do you think that inherently is a thing for women? Because I hear you say that, and at no point did you think to yourself, maybe it's my partner? Is it something about women that they want to turn and blame themselves?
He did open up and say he was worried that it was his fault too.
I was worried because I took steroids for 5 years, and I thought maybe I've ruined my body. Maybe I can't. Maybe I can't produce a child. Yeah,
and I think when you have a miscarriage, you almost shut the doors on talking a little.
Yeah.
Because you're so engrossed in your own upset.
Yeah.
You cannot deal with somebody else's upset in a way, I felt.
How far into the pregnancy were you? If you don't
so I went for my 12-week scan, and I found out on my 12-week scan that there was it had died. So
did you ever name the child?
No, because I didn't know whether it was a boy or a girl. And
yeah, we were the same. So we never named our child. We didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. And this is a fear now for me.
I did a memorial garden.
Did you?
And I had a little angel tattooed on my wrist.
I'm a big one for tattoos.
So just because for me, I needed something that I could maybe go out and see, a visual.
Yeah.
Mine was, I got 2 Belfast sinks and put them together, and that created a waterfall effect of flowers that would come out. And
we have some physical things as
like
well
that. So I think that is quite a good healing, a coping mechanism to go into. So you've got something that you can actually physically see. Mm-hmm. Because I think for me, obviously I went for the 12-week scan. They went, there's nothing to really.
Did you have it multiple times? And what I mean by that is when we were told that we lost our child, we were told it every time, because sometimes you go back and it's a different doctor, because people think you have a miscarriage and that's it.
I had to go straight to the Royal from there.
Yeah.
So it was instant.
But even then, after you have the termination, if you will, it's not even that easy, because there's then the physical aspect of recovering from it and passing everything that comes with it.
I didn't actually have the termination via what a lot of women will just have the abortion, so that it terminates it and gets rid of the majority of it. I actually had the pessaries, so that I gave birth, because.
Which adds a whole new dimension to it.
For me, it was a wanted child. So personally, it was a wanted child that I couldn't bear to have sucked out of my body, so to speak.
You wanted to keep as much
Everybody's
of the natural
got a
process.
different way, and I don't, each to their own. But that was for me, and also I suffered when I had the girls. I suffered quite a lot of hemorrhaging.
Yeah.
So I lost sort of 6 pints of blood when I had my second daughter. So I had to have a full blood transfusion. Things like the thing that I hated about it was they give you the pessaries, and if you've not passed that within 12 hours, you're sent home
to go through it.
So I had to go through it at home because I hadn't passed, and then I had to keep everything for 4 days to make sure that I weren't hemorrhaging, which makes it on a whole new brain level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because so you've come home
it's not a nice. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, not even my worst enemy. I would never wish it on anybody.
But isn't it so sad that, as we've said already, people feel shame, or they vilify it, or it becomes a taboo thing that we don't share with people?
I think in this past few years, I think it's getting more out there via social media. People will...
I think we'll become more tolerable with lots of things and more
I think
accepting.
more people are talking, especially the pole industry, because obviously I've got so many pole dancers from all over the world on my Facebook, and I will see at least one a day share of, here's a picture of, like a rainbow baby picture or quote, and I just send love, because that's all you can do.
That's all you can do, isn't it?
And I'm here
when you say that's all you can do, that's not to diminish it.
No.
Some people think, some people avoid it. Even if you're going through it, I'm like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to ask Donna because I don't know what to say to her. I can't help her. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, because they don't know what to do.
And there's nothing you need to do though.
No,
like you've just said about sending love and things like that.
Yeah, sending love and just letting them know that if they want to talk, you talk.
Yeah.
But for me, I was worried about coming back to the studio afterwards.
Really?
Yeah, because I thought people would be looking at me. That was a massive thing in my head. I just thought, God, they all know, and they're just all looking at me. Almost, I don't want a pity party.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like having to relive it over and over again.
I don't want questions. I just want...
How is the baby, Donna? Again.
Again.
I've got to talk about it again.
I didn't want to talk about it again and again. I just wanted to go. So I just literally wrote a Facebook message.
Yeah.
This is what's happened.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it. I'm okay. I've sorted it in my head.
Yeah.
Can we just move on? And although I was still dealing with it, I didn't get the questions that I didn't want.
You never stopped dealing with it.
I didn't want I just didn't want the continuous questions from, because obviously I appreciate the students were all concerned, but
that's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, but you've got to also deal with your own mental health there.
I love that because you've spoken about a few different aspects there of things that you've gone through, and how now you're able to talk about these things. And someone told me a very long time ago, because when you look at your own past, a lot of people, myself, I'll just use an example. I look at my past, it's a mess. You know what I mean? I think of it as an absolute mess. I think drugs this and failed businesses and good stuff and bad stuff and issues with a marriage and all this sort of stuff. But somebody said to me a long time ago that your mess is your message. And when you make friends with it and when you're able to be open and honest about it, it almost acts like a hook in like a climbing wall. It allows people to connect with you. Yeah. If you appear, and this is always terrible on social media, if you appear like you're infallible, you're perfect, you're absolute, the world is... If you appear that way... I
can't think of anything worse, though.
But people can't connect with you then.
I can't think of anything worse.
I know.
I'm just say it how it is. And,
say it how it is. And then the amount of people that then open up to you and go, oh, Donna, I'm so glad you said that, because actually I had that, or I had this, or I had similar. And then they open up to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
As soon as we can get over ourselves...
Yeah, you'll find that so many people have gone through issues, and they would love to talk about it, but they don't necessarily know who to talk to about it. No. But yeah, once you've let a little bit of light out, a little bit yourself out, usually you will get somebody go, "That was me," or "I've been there."
And I've heard from a number of your students that that's one of the biggest draws with you, if you know what I mean. Not necessarily your story, but just your comfort in yourself, because that's infectious. You know, the way you make other people feel so comfortable.
I think that is... I don't think it's something you can teach you either.
Can't teach that, no.
Yeah,
absolutely
not. You're either the people like you for who you are, and I always try and teach the girls that just be yourself. Just be yourself. And people will love you for you. Yeah. And if people don't love you for you, then they're really not worth it. And I think I was quite conscious, probably, of what people thought until I was probably 35. It sounds daft, but I think at 35, I'm like, I don't give a shit anymore. Yeah. I really don't give a shit. If you don't like
me about 2 years ago.
Yeah. If you don't like me, your issue.
Yeah.
Your issue. And that's not me being like...
Because the people that love you will love you.
Yeah.
Be Marmite, absolutely. I always say to people. Yeah. If people don't like you, they were never going to connect with you anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Either like for a pole fitness analogy, they were never going to come to pole. So if they hate you, it doesn't matter.
Tell you a little story.
Because they were never going to be part of you. But the people that hear it and love you will love you forever because you're honest.
Yeah. I once had there was a student in, I won't say her name, and she nudged the girl next to her and she went, "She's just called me a knobhead." And the girl next to her went, "That means she likes you." Do you know what I mean?
There's a bit of a military aspect.
You know
we have it in the fire service. We have dark humour, and I know you would have had it from the military background as well.
It's an
acceptance.
I just shouted at her, "What are you doing, you knobhead?" Because she's doing something wrong and nothing what I'd taught. I was just like, what are you doing?
I think that a lot of societies become a lot more open and accepting about these things, and that's what's bringing us all so much closer together.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think as fitness in the fitness industry, I think you have got to be quite open as a person.
I think the successful ones are.
And accepting, for people to want to come.
Yeah.
Like I say, my students see this as their second home.
Yeah.
You know, because I am just me, and I don't put airs and graces on. I don't try.
That.
A lot of people have an image of a pole dancer, and I am so not that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I am so not that.
I laugh with respect because I completely
you know what I mean? You probably, as a pole dancer instructor, you would probably think I look like Barbie in a pair of 6-inch heels, and I'm currently in a pair of leopard print joggers and a
But
hoodie.
I think the facilities in general that have that tend not to be, don't have a lot of longevity, and they don't have a lot of culture.
To be fair, there are girls that do have that appearance that are wonderful teachers out there, but
that's not because they look that way.
Different style. No, nothing to do with whether they look
that's
there or
what
not.
I mean.
That is because
so
they
people
do
shouldn't
have
point
that.
to that and go, well, she's like that. But she's a great teacher because she's a great teacher.
Yeah.
If she had a horrific accident tomorrow and lost a leg and put on 2 stone, she would still be a great teacher.
Yeah.
It's not because of that. And you see that with a lot of great facilities. Some of the best gyms I've ever been in, and CrossFit enterprises, and all sorts of different environments. The best ones are where the ragtag bunch roll up in ripped shorts, and people turn up to yours in the pajamas and stuff like that. The cold, isolated, professional gyms where everybody turns up in lycra, the culture's not there. Do you know what I mean? And they're so lovely and incredibly polite to people. People will go there sometimes the first few times they want to try fitness, but then when they want that community feel, because that's what a lot of fitness is.
They need a connection, don't they?
You need that connection, and that comes through.
Absolutely.
Let people relax.
I would say 90% of the students that have come here have a connection outside of here now.
Yeah.
And it's through meeting them in the studio.
Yeah.
Nothing else. I mean, some of my best friends I've met in the industry.
Yeah.
One of my best mates is in Stoke, but I've met her through the industry. We actually competed together in 2006, and we've been friends, best mates ever since.
And that's the beauty of sort of this global village that we now live in.
Yeah.
We're so connected so much of the time. Now, you've spoken there about how you've built this incredible connection. Now, we're currently in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, or we're coming out the other end of it, hopefully, in touch wood.
Fingers crossed.
And your community, and this is what was drawn to me when I was speaking to my wife about, because I've seen all the stuff you've been still staying so committed and connected to so many of your members, and I haven't seen that with a lot of other some facilities are fantastic, but some people have been, the doors are closed, so I'm closed. Whereas you've managed to keep things going. Because
I think at the end of the day, I don't want to lose my students. I love all my students.
Yeah.
And that's not for a financial gain, because I hardly make bugger all. Do you know what I mean? It is literally because this is pure passion for me.
Yeah.
And if I go home with 150 quid in a week, I'm happy.
Magic.
Do you know what I mean? That's bang on for me. You know what I mean? But
because you're doing what you love. Very few people do
love
that.
Who can say that they love their job? How many people can say that?
It's sad that so few can do that.
I can.
I feel for people.
Open my heart and say that is my, other than my family, pole is my world.
But that's the why. And when I say to people, if you want the end result, like the financial at the end of it, it will become very brittle very quickly. Your why, as in teaching, empowering people to get that spark that you got, when that's the why, the how can be lots of different ways. So people go, hang on a minute, Donna, your studio's closed. Yeah, but my why is to help these men and women to feel more confident, to learn something and create that community. And that why can exist as it is now, even if they don't have the physical resource and the ability to be here.
Obviously at the moment I've got the Zoom classes going on.
And they're a scream. They're an absolute scream. I've seen Claire, in the bedroom or in the lounge or something like that, and she's sat down on her knees, and there she is. And
people who have got poles at home, we can obviously still teach pole. What we can't do is teach inverts at the moment. So we can teach anything at low level, because obviously a lot of students don't have safety matting and things like that. My concern would be somebody had an accident. I couldn't live with that. If somebody had an accident,
God, imagine seeing it.
I couldn't.
In a video, and you can't get there.
You can't do anything about it. So for me, I spoke to my insurance and they said you can still teach that, but I don't personally. I don't feel it's safe to.
No.
And I wouldn't want somebody's broken neck on my head. Do you know what I mean?
And this isn't a permanent thing as well. So people can do that. They will soon. It's not forever, guys. We're going to come back.
I mean, I say to the girls, if you want to, and you know you're safe to, that's your choice. But I will not teach you that.
No. And that takes a lot. Yeah. That takes a lot, because I bet you've had the offers. I bet you've had...
of course.
I know what you said in the group, Donna, but can't we just...
No, we can't.
Exactly.
That's the answer. But I'm confident enough to say that.
That takes a lot, and a lot of people are not.
Oh, a lot of people are not. There's a lot of people in the industry who are teaching inverted tricks, and I don't. I don't think it's safe to. Spins and low level. There's plenty of stuff that you can do at low level. Plenty of stuff that you're not going to hurt yourself. Yeah. No, if you're only working from head height and below, you're not going to damage yourself. So,
absolutely. And again, it's only temporary.
Yeah,
guys,
exactly.
We're coming back. We're coming back.
And what I've tried to do is the people who haven't got poles, I've tried to keep them entertained as well.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
So obviously, I've got things like stretch running, conditioning running. Yeah. I've also got floor work routines, and we do a special twice a month. So once a month we do chair dance because obviously we do 2 nights of pole. Yeah. And then we do showgirl, lap dance or burlesque on the third night. So fantastic. First night we do chair, third night we do one of the 3. So
for anybody that's hearing this and they're like, geez, I mean, I love the sound of Donna, because they're only human and they're going to love the sound of you. What's the best way for them to connect with you? Because especially if they're living in the local area.
So obviously, whilst lockdown's on, we're continuing with Zoom. Yep. Any of that sort of stuff would be you can get connect with us on First Class Pole Fitness Facebook page. Perfect. And through there you can book any of the classes. Mm-hmm. And for when we reopen, again, through the page, all the details are on the Facebook page. I haven't got a website. I was paying out for a website that weren't actually working.
In this day and age,
they are absolutely useless.
For certain business types, it works. But
Facebook is my biggest way of advertising, so I've just kept it all on there for ease. So yeah, as soon as we have the page on there, obviously any updates we'll get through the government, we will then put on when we'll be reopening. So if anybody wants to come in and give it a go,
which should be there for us in the next few weeks, we hope.
I'm hoping so. I'm really hoping so. I'm so sick of teaching. I don't mean this funny, but I'm sick of teaching Zoom. I want to teach students in person.
Because you miss that connection.
Yeah, that is all it is. It's not that I'm sick of teaching what I'm teaching.
Nothing to do with the people.
It's the fact that
material.
You start your lesson, you have a bit of a natter, it's lovely, then I have to mute everybody.
Yeah.
It's horrendous.
And the energy that you produce in this studio when everybody's there, you feed off it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's such a huge part of what you do. Donna, thank you for sharing your message with us today. I feel like I've learned an enormous amount about pole fitness in general. It's going to be a huge part of, I know, Claire's life. She cannot wait to get back in here.
When I'm actually able to teach you,
you're going to teach me.
Get you down and have a proper lesson.
Claire has said, so if you're going on there with Donna, she's going to get you in. I said, I cannot wait to get in there. So as soon as the ban is lifted, I will be down here in some embarrassingly tight shorts, and we'll have a good scream about it.
Lovely.
Donna, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself.
Cheers, mate. All right.
Perfect. Thanks for checking out the Firefighters Podcast this week. Make sure you check out the YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram pages, keeping yourself up to date with the latest podcast as it comes out. We'll see you guys soon.